Hey guys, tonight we're tumbling into a story that's darker, stranger, and more tragic than anything you'll find on the evening news. This is the world of the P2P Meth addict in 2025 America, a world that makes your worst hangover look like a spa day. I know, you were probably hoping for something lighter, like medieval dentistry or the history of lead paint, but trust me, nothing will make you feel better about your own bedtime routine than spending an hour in these shoes. Before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this. Drop a comment about where you're listening from, and maybe tell us the weirdest midnight snack you've ever had. I'll go first. Cold French fries and regret. Now, dim the lights, turn on a fan for that soft white noise and get comfy. Maybe tuck yourself in with an extra blanket, because what you're about to hear is colder than an air mattress in a basement. But let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it's actually like to live every day on the edge, hunting for the world's sketchiest chemistry set? How do you function when your to-do list reads, find meth, avoid cops, stay alive, repeat? What's breakfast when your teeth are mostly memories? Can you keep a relationship going when the only third wheel is a crusty old pipe? Is there such a thing as a relaxing meth-fueled Tuesday? And just how many gas station hot dogs does it take before you finally hit rock bottom? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 2025 America. Your wallet is empty, your phone is cracked, and the only thing more brittle than your sleep schedule is your sense of hope. Welcome to the horrifying fate of a P2P meth addict. Good luck. Morning arrives like a punch to the face. You're sprawled on a mattress with no sheets, blinking at the sunlight slicing through the blinds. Your jaw aches, your tongue is sandpaper, and your heart is already racing, but you're not sure if you ever actually slept or just blacked out while scrolling through conspiracy forums. Let's be honest, calling it waking up is generous. It's more like surfacing from a muddy pool with someone yelling your name from the edge. Your body aches in places you forgot existed, and your brain is running through yesterday's highlight reel, half memories, half hallucination. There's an empty baggie crumpled on the floor and a sticky energy drink sweating beside your pillow. If you're lucky, your phone is still in your pocket and not wedged under the neighbour's couch from last night's adventure. You lie still for a minute, taking inventory. Arms? Still here. Legs? Not as sure. They're numb and twitchy. Teeth? Don't smile too wide. First order of business? Did you dream? Probably not. Sleep, for you, is a negotiation. A desperate barter between your exhausted body and a mind that refuses to switch off. Most nights it's just a blur. Your eyes close, you scroll, you blink, and somehow it's 8 a.m, and the birds are judging you through the window. You try to piece together the last 12 hours, but all you get are blurry snapshots. A late-night argument over a missing charger, a frantic search for a lighter, a TV blasting infomercials at 3 a.m. Your pillow smells faintly of burnt plastic and old sweat. The bed isn't so much a bed as a rectangle-shaped suggestion of comfort, pockmarked with stains and questionable memories. Sensory reality returns in stages. The air in the room is sticky, dense with the leftover chemical tang of last night's choices. Your mouth feels like you've been eating sand, and every swallow is a reminder that hydration is just a rumour. You taste metal. The old AC rattles in the window but only blows warm air and the odd whiff of cigarette smoke from somewhere below. On the nightstand, if you're lucky, there's a half-full water bottle. If you're unlucky, it's just a mirage, an empty bottle, a broken promise, another reminder to buy more next time you stumble to the store. You try to move. Bad idea. Your muscles protest, locked up from hours of tossing and clenching. Your jaw feels like you've been chewing rocks in your sleep, probably because you have, at least metaphorically. Every joint cracks in protest, each noise amplified by the quiet dread humming under your skin. There's a smear of blood on your knuckle you don't remember earning. Did you punch the wall again? Or just sleepwalk into the doorknob? Either way, it doesn't matter. You're awake now, in the loosest sense of the word. Your phone buzzes. It's either an alarm, a text, or just a phantom notification your brain invented out of habit. You ignore it. The outside world is on hold until you can figure out where your shoes are, how much money you don't have, and whether you're supposed to meet anyone today. If you are, they're probably just as lost as you. You swipe at your face, brush crumbs from your shirt, and check the window to make sure it's still there. Paranoia never sleeps, even when you do. You catch your reflection in a blackened TV screen, eyes red, face hollow, hair wild and matted from a week of restless nights. You look away. It's easier to stare at the ceiling and count the water stains than confront the stranger peering back. You tell yourself you'll do better tomorrow. Drink water, eat something green, maybe find a new place to sleep. For now, you'll settle for vertical. Standing up is its own little triumph, a morning victory in a world where nothing comes easy. You shuffle to the bathroom, if there is one. Maybe it's down the hall, maybe it's a bucket in the corner, maybe it's just wishful thinking. Every step is a negotiation. Your feet are swollen, ankles clicking, knees stiff. You rinse your face, or at least splash water on it, bracing for the cold shock. It doesn't wake you up, not really, but it's a ritual, a signal to your body that the day has started, whether you're ready or not. You take a deep breath and step back into the daylight, blinking hard. Another morning, another chance to try, to hustle, to survive. It isn't glamorous, but for now, it's enough. Because you woke up, and sometimes that's the hardest part. It always starts with a twitch and a tingle, the phantom crawl under your skin, reminding you that sobriety is for other people. You scratch your arm, then your neck, but nothing helps. The only cure is another hit, or at least that's what you tell yourself. Let's talk about the itch. Not the kind you get from a mosquito bite or from wool socks on a dry winter morning, but something deeper, something that starts in your nerves and seeps into your bones. It's part physical, part psychological, and entirely relentless. You could be sitting perfectly still, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly feel like your own skin has turned against you. 1 second you're almost comfortable, the next you're raking your nails down your forearm, hoping to dig out whatever invisible thing is wriggling underneath. You promise yourself you'll ignore it, that today is the day you'll ride it out, just sit still, breathe, be normal. But the itch doesn't care about your plans. It whispers, it nudges, it demands attention, like a toddler with a tambourine. You try distraction, scroll your phone, turn up the TV, count the cracks in the drywall. But it's always there, needling you, a private radio station tuned to static. Some people call it formication, the sensation of bugs crawling on your skin. You call it Tuesday. You shift in your seat. You pace. You check your pockets, your sleeves, the seams in your jeans, anything to prove to yourself it's not real. But you know better. This is the part where reason and biology square off in the world's least entertaining wrestling match. You know the science. You know it's withdrawal, a trick of your brain chemistry, a side effect of too many bad nights and not enough good decisions. But knowing doesn't help. The only thing that helps, or at least promises to help, is another hit. You make deals with yourself. 5 more minutes, 10, you'll get through this episode, this commercial break, this hour. If you can make it to noon, maybe you'll feel proud. Maybe you'll even reward yourself with a sandwich or a shower or a rare, honest nap. But every plan collapses under the itch. It turns into a drumbeat, faster and faster, echoing off the walls until it's the only thing you can think about. Some days it's a dull hum, just enough to keep you restless and irritable. Other days it's a 5-alarm fire and you do anything to put it out. It's not just the itch itself. It's the spiral of anxiety that follows. You start worrying. Will anyone notice the red marks? Can you go to the store without someone thinking you're contagious, diseased, dangerous? You try to cover up with long sleeves in July, but sweat just makes the sensation worse. And if you're unlucky enough to catch someone's eye, you see the flicker of recognition. Maybe they've been there too. Maybe they're just judging. Either way, you turn away, suddenly desperate for privacy you can't afford. Hygiene doesn't help. You could scrub your skin raw and still feel the itch pulsing just beneath the surface. Lotions, ointments, herbal remedies, none of it works. You once tried an oatmeal bath, thinking it might soothe your nerves. All it did was make your apartment smell like breakfast and leave you with an even itchier sense of despair. Every attempted solution is just another way to pass the time until you cave. Then there's the shame. You know how this looks. You know the stereotypes, the tweaking addict, the one who can't sit still. You want to be better than that, or at least invisible, but the itch outs you every time. You wonder if people at work, if you still have a job, can see the marks. You wonder if the cashier at the gas station is judging your frantic movements as you reach for your wallet. You wonder if your family would recognize you at all, watching you squirm and scratch and lie about it. By mid-morning, the itch is all you can think about. It drowns out everything else, hunger, fatigue, even guilt. You tell yourself it will pass, but you know the truth. There's only one thing that really brings relief, And it's not a cold shower or a cup of herbal tea. It's that little baggie in the drawer, the familiar ritual, the sharp burn in your nose or lungs or veins, whatever gets you through the next hour, the next day. You scratch again, a little too hard this time, and wince. The itch fades for a second, replaced by a fresh sting, and you laugh quietly at the absurdity. You're fighting a battle against yourself and losing one tiny scrape at a time. That's life, at least for now. You promise, one more time, just to take the edge off, just so you can breathe, just so you can finally stop scratching, and maybe, if you're lucky, feel human again for 5 blessed minutes. Your living space is an archaeological dig site of chaos. Clothes, food wrappers, broken electronics, a single sock that might not even be yours. You spend an hour searching for your phone, then realise you've been holding it the entire time. Again. Welcome to the daily scavenger hunt. Except the prize is usually disappointment and the consolation is a handful of AA batteries you're not sure are dead or just pretending. The bedroom is actually just one corner of a universe-sized mess, spilling over into the kitchen, the bathroom, the hall. Every surface is a display shelf for broken ambitions, an old laptop that died in 2018, a pile of unopened mail, half a Pop-Tart that's grown a mysterious green fuzz. Somewhere in this disaster zone is your wallet, your lighter, and most importantly, your sense of control. Good luck finding any of them. Let's talk about organisation or what passes for it. You know, on some theoretical level, that things would be easier if you just picked up once in a while. But picking up means making choices, and choices are exhausting. You try sorting things into piles, keep trash may be useful. Someday, and no idea what this is, by the end everything's back in the same place and the only thing you've accomplished is making a fresh mess. There's a cardboard box you vaguely remember using for moving. Now it holds a tangle of wires, 3 remote controls for TVs you no longer own, and enough loose change to buy a single vending machine snack. You'll find your keys in there sometime next month. Of course, there's a system, at least that's what you tell yourself. The blue cup is where lighters go. The microwave is for important papers, because who checks the microwave? The sock drawer? That's for coins, receipts, and an old birthday card from your aunt. Unopened, but somehow sticky. But the system only works when you can remember it, and memory is in short supply these days. Meth doesn't make you forgetful exactly. It just makes your thoughts run so fast they all trip over each other and fall face first into a pile of laundry. Every search for a missing item turns into a full-blown archaeological expedition. You start by lifting couch cushions, finding pennies, cracker crumbs, and at least one object that defies explanation. You move to the bathroom, where you're sure you left your razor, but instead find a bottle of shampoo you thought was lost in 2022, and a single flip-flop. The refrigerator yields nothing but expired condiments, and the ghost of takeout past. By the time you return to the living room, you've forgotten what you were looking for in the first place. Paranoia creeps in. Did someone take your stuff? Did you lend it out? You replay last night's conversations, snippets of memory fuzzy around the edges. Maybe you let a friend borrow your charger, or maybe it's just buried under the pizza boxes. Trust is tricky. You want to believe your friends, your roommates, your circle wouldn't steal from you, but everyone's desperate, and desperation has a way of making stuff walk away on its own. Then there are the weird finds. Things you didn't know you had. A spoon from a diner you never visited. A sweater that's 2 sizes too small and smells like someone else's cologne. Receipts from states you don't remember driving through. Each discovery is a little mystery, a breadcrumb from a life that feels both familiar and completely alien. You wonder if you'll ever be able to throw any of it away, or if you're destined to become one of those people who ends up on a reality show, pleading with producers to leave your collection alone. Time doesn't help. Days blur together. Some afternoons you decide to tackle the mess, only to get distracted by another search, this time for a charger, or a pack of gum, or your last remaining pair of clean underwear. You're halfway through cleaning when you realise you're hungry, and by the time you return the energy's gone and the mess has doubled. You'd laugh, but the laugh gets stuck behind a sigh. Eventually, after what feels like a lifetime, you find your phone. Right there, in your hand, where it's been the whole time. You stare at it, half amused, half embarrassed, and vow, again, that tomorrow you'll get it together. Maybe clean, maybe organise, maybe reclaim just a little corner of space that's yours. But for now, you let the mess settle, take a seat on the edge of a mattress, and accept the simple truth. Sometimes, in a world built on chaos, Just keeping track of yourself is an accomplishment. And hey, at least you found your phone, eventually. You eye the shelf of shriveled hot dogs spinning under jaundiced lights. Last night's dinner was a bag of chips and a Mountain Dew. This morning, cold coffee, a handful of gummy vitamins, and whatever you can fish out of your pocket that doesn't have pocket lint stuck to it. Let's be real. Breakfast isn't about nutrition anymore. It's about survival and convenience. You're standing in front of a humming refrigerator in a gas station, reading the back of an expired yogurt cup like you're deciphering ancient runes. Most of what's on offer could double as a science experiment or a prop in a horror movie. There's a burrito in a plastic wrapper, sweating in its own existential dread. Some cheese sticks, a box of mini donuts older than your last relationship, and a carton of milk you eye suspiciously before settling for another swig of caffeine. You count out coins on the counter, sorting the sticky nickels from the ones that still look usable. The cashier doesn't make eye contact, just scans your items with the resigned air of someone who's seen every shade of hungry. You say something about the weather, anything to sound normal, anything to distract from the growl in your stomach and the twitch in your hands. There's a stale banana by the register. You debate it. Ultimately, sugar wins like it always does. Outside, you sit on the curb, balancing your breakfast on your knees. The pavement is still damp from last night's rain, and the air smells like gasoline and cigarettes, a surprisingly effective appetite suppressant. You take a bite of the hot dog, rubbery and oddly sweet, and chase it with a sip of cold coffee that tastes like defeat. There's a certain ritual to it. Unwrap, inspect, eat, regret. Each bite is a reminder that you used to care what you put into your body, back when meals had vegetables and were cooked by someone who knew your name. This is what breakfast looks like when every day is a scramble. You eat what you can, when you can, because planning takes energy you don't have, and money you'll probably need for something else later. Some mornings you skip food altogether, telling yourself you're fasting, or detoxing, or just not hungry. But your stomach knows better. It churns and grumbles, reminding you that even in chaos, biology still has a schedule. You glance around. There are others like you. People running on empty, clutching gas station coffee like it's the last warm thing on earth. A woman with 2 kids in pajamas, a man with a leaf blower strapped to his back staring into space. You're all members of the same accidental club, survivors of the American morning fueled by sugar, caffeine, and an overwhelming sense of just get through the day. Sometimes you splurge on something that looks healthy, maybe a granola bar or a fruit cup. It's always a letdown. The fruit is mushy, the granola stale. You eat it anyway because options are a luxury for other people. You promise yourself tomorrow will be different, that you'll buy groceries, cook real food, maybe even sit at a table like a human being. But right now, this is what you've got and you make do. You check your phone for messages, nothing important, just a reminder to pay a bill you can't afford and a spam text about refinancing your non-existent mortgage. You wonder if anyone you know is having pancakes or eggs, sitting at a kitchen table with sunlight streaming in. The thought stings, but you push it away. Comparison is a losing game, and you're too tired to play. You finish breakfast in a series of distracted bites, wiping your hands on your jeans and chasing the last swallow of coffee with a half-hearted sigh. It's not gourmet, but it's enough. Enough to get you through the next hour, the next errand, the next hustle. You toss the wrappers in the trash, stand up and stretch. The day waits, indifferent to your hunger or your hopes. For now, you survived another gas station morning, and in your world that's enough of a win to keep going. Every notification is a heart attack in your pocket. You scroll through messages, some from real people, some you're pretty sure you hallucinated. Did you text your ex again, or was that just another anxiety dream? You sit there staring at the screen like it's a ticking device. The phone buzzes once and your pulse spikes. Twice and you're convinced something bad is happening somewhere very close to your name. You open your messages slowly, bracing for impact because nothing good ever starts with a surprise notification at 9:14 a.m. on a Tuesday. It's either someone asking for money, someone accusing you of something you half remember doing, or a vague "you good" that somehow feels worse than all of it combined. Your message threads are a psychological crime scene. There are conversations that just stop, mid-sentence, mid-argument, mid-promise. There's a block of text you don't remember sending but recognize as yours anyway. Like finding your own handwriting on a bathroom wall, you read them with the detached horror of someone watching security footage of themselves making terrible choices. Why did you type that? Why did you send 3 messages in a row? Why did you end with LOL like that fixed anything? You check your sent messages with dread. That's where the real damage lives. Voice memos you don't remember recording. Paragraphs sent at 3:47 a.m. explaining truths no one asked for. Apologies stacked on top of apologies until they cancel each other out. Somewhere in there is a message to your ex. Or maybe 3. Or maybe none. You scroll back, squinting, hoping the universe took mercy on you this time. Sometimes it did, sometimes it very much did not. Then there's the paranoia. That creeping sense that every message has a hidden meaning. That hey isn't casual. That period at the end of a sentence is a threat. That silence is proof of something awful. You read and reread the same text, dissecting it like a sacred document. Why did they use that emoji? Why did they see your message and not reply? Why did they stop typing halfway through and disappear forever? Your brain fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios, most of which end with you being arrested, abandoned, or talked about in a group chat you're definitely not invited to. You start checking timestamps. Last online, last active. Read receipts become personal attacks. You tell yourself not to care, but your thumb refreshes the screen anyway. Again and again. You convince yourself someone's watching you through the phone, tracking your movements, logging your mistakes. It's ridiculous. You know it's ridiculous. But knowing doesn't make the feeling go away. It just makes you feel ridiculous and scared, which is an inefficient emotional combo. Calls are worse. You let them ring out no matter who it is. Mum, a friend, an unknown number, especially an unknown number. Voicemail notifications pile up like unopened mail from reality. You promise you'll listen to them later, when you're calmer, more prepared, more whatever. Later never comes. Later is a myth invented by people with stable nervous systems. Sometimes you reply when you shouldn't. A fast, panicked response just to stop the buzzing in your chest. Other times you don't reply at all, paralyzed by the fear of saying the wrong thing. You draft messages in your notes app, rewrite them 12 times, then delete them entirely. Silence becomes your default setting. It feels safer. It isn't, but it feels that way. You start to wonder how normal people use phones. Casually, joyfully, sending memes, making plans, not flinching every time the screen lights up. For you, the phone isn't a tool, it's a lie detector, a courtroom, a reminder of every relationship you've strained thin. It's proof that you exist in other people's lives, whether you're ready for that or not. Eventually you lock the screen and shove the phone face down on the table like it can't hurt you if it can't see you. The room feels quieter. Your heart slows a little. For now, at least the messages can wait. The paranoia settles into a low hum instead of a scream. You take a breath. One small win. No new notifications. And in your world, that counts as peace. Once, you had a full set of teeth. Now, you're negotiating with the last survivors. Meth mouth isn't a punchline. It's your dentist retirement plan. You avoid mirrors and chewy foods and try not to think about the taste of blood. It didn't happen overnight. That's the worst part. You can still remember brushing your teeth regularly, maybe even flossing. Minty freshness, mouthwash burns, the satisfying click of clean enamel. But somewhere between the missed appointments and the sudden onset apathy, your mouth became a battlefield. And meth? Meth was the grenade. It starts with dryness, not a little dry, desert in a drought dry. Your saliva packs up and leaves town. You wake up with a tongue like sandpaper and lips that crack every time you smile, which, to be fair, you don't do much anymore. Every breath feels like dragging cotton through your throat, and water only helps for 5 seconds before you're right back to licking your gums like a lizard trying to stay alive. Next comes the acid. You didn't ask for a chemistry experiment in your mouth, but here it is anyway. Constant exposure to acidic vapors, cheap cut product, and late-night convenience store candy binges. Your teeth, already weakened by malnutrition and stress, start to lose the fight. First, they feel sensitive, then they feel loose, then they just go. One day, you're biting into a stale breakfast sandwich, and suddenly there's a crunch that wasn't supposed to be there. You spit into a napkin and see the fragment, a jagged little triangle that used to be a molar. You hold it in your hand, stunned. It's not the first. It won't be the last. You toss it in the trash and keep eating, too hungry to stop, too tired to care. From then on, every bite is a gamble. You avoid anything that crunches, anything that sticks, anything that might yank another one loose. Carrots? Not today. Steak? Forget it. You start cutting your food into baby-sized bites, swallowing more than chewing. Even soft foods become risky. One wrong angle and you'll spend the next hour probing a new gap with your tongue, wondering how long it's been there. You develop tricks. Chew on the left side. Don't drink anything too cold. Avoid smiling unless absolutely necessary. You keep a stash of clove oil around for the days when the pain gets unbearable, a few drops on a cotton swab shoved against an exposed nerve just to take the edge off. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it just adds a burning sensation to the already delightful symphony of decay. And mirrors? Forget them. You brush your teeth in the dark now. Or not at all. What's the point? Your toothbrush is frayed, your toothpaste is generic, and every time you spit there's a hint of pink, or red, or something in between. You tell yourself you'll go to the dentist when things calm down, when you have insurance, when you have ID, when you feel worthy of sitting in that vinyl chair without shame dripping off your face like sweat. You know what they'll say anyway. You've seen the looks, you've read the articles, you've heard the horror stories, and now you're living one. Meth mouth isn't just a phrase, it's a reality with rotting roots, blackened gums, and a price tag that laughs in the face of Medicaid. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, you dream about getting your teeth back. Not veneers, not implants, just normal teeth. The kind that don't throb, that don't ache, that let you eat apples without fear. But morning comes, and the taste of blood is back, metallic and sour. You sip water, rinse your mouth, and ignore the new wobble in one of your front teeth. Another day, another compromise. You tell yourself they're just teeth, that you can live without them, that there are worse things, and maybe there are. But in a world where everything else already feels broken, losing parts of yourself, one tooth at a time, starts to feel personal, relentless, and quietly devastating. Personal hygiene is a distant memory. You stand in the shower, fully clothed, contemplating life's big questions. Why does the water hurt your skin? What day is it? Is conditioner just a scam? The water hits your back like a judgment. Too hot. Feels like lava. Too cold. Feels like betrayal. It's hard to tell if your skin is just hypersensitive or if you're actually molting like a reptile in crisis. Either way, it's not the refreshing cascade from a shampoo commercial. It's more like standing under the tears of a disappointed god. The water pressure is either a fire hose or a trickle, never in between, and today the drain smells vaguely like wet pennies and despair. You don't remember the last time you properly bathed. You've tried, honestly, but showering feels like a chore wrapped in existential dread. First, you have to locate a towel that isn't stiff as drywall. Then, if you're lucky, there's shampoo. If you're really lucky, it isn't expired or mixed with some mysterious off-brand body wash in a bottle labelled hand soap. The idea of grooming used to mean something. Now it's just a game of, will this burn? You stare at the mouldy corner of the tub like it's an old friend. Familiar, sad, not quite threatening, but also not quite safe. You don't sit down, not because it's gross, it is, but because standing feels like penance. You try to remember if you've used soap yet. You hold the bar in your hand like a relic. It's probably been dropped too many times to be sanitary. Then again, so have you. Some days you forget to undress entirely. You step in with your socks still on, your shirt clinging to your back like guilt, and you just stand there, not scrubbing, not rinsing, just letting time pass while the water runs and the steam fogs up the mirror you've been avoiding for months. It's not a shower. It's a therapy session without the talking or the progress. Your thoughts wander. Not in a gentle, meditative way, but in a chaotic spiral of half memories, fake arguments, and sudden reminders of things you forgot to do 3 weeks ago. You question everything. Did you pay that parking ticket? Did your friend mean something weird by that last text? Why are your knuckles bleeding again? You turn the faucet slightly to adjust the temperature, but it's like cracking a safe with oven mitts, immediately regrettable. You try washing your hair, but it's a process. Your scalp feels like it's trying to peel off, and your fingers move through tangles like they're foraging in tall grass. Conditioner doesn't help. It just makes your hair feel wet and vaguely slimy, like you tried to groom yourself with yogurt. Rinsing takes forever, and halfway through, you forget what you're even rinsing. The drain clogs, again. A whirlpool of hair, old soap bits, and some unidentified object that might once have been a razor cap or a bug. You poke it with your toe but lose interest immediately. The water pools around your ankles like it's planning something. Eventually you shut off the water, shivering. You reach for the towel, but it's not there. Of course it's not there. You forgot it again. So you drip dry in the middle of the bathroom, staring at your reflection in a foggy mirror that doesn't want to show you the full picture anyway. You're a blurry silhouette, half ghost, half guilt. Cleanish, not better, just wetter. You shuffle back to your room wrapped in something that vaguely resembles a bathrobe, your hair still dripping down your back. You smell like soap, sure, but you still feel like you're wearing a layer of exhaustion no amount of scrubbing will remove. The good news? You showered. Sort of. The bad news? You're already dreading the next one. Because hygiene isn't just about being clean, it's about caring. And caring these days feels like a luxury you can't always afford. Money comes and goes, mostly goes. You juggle odd jobs, pawn shops, maybe a favour or two for a friend of a friend. You're always broke, always bargaining, always one bad day away from crashing on a stranger's couch. Let's not sugarcoat it. Your economy is built on desperation and duct tape. You wake up broke, go to bed broker, and in between, you try to scavenge enough cash to keep the lights on, either literally or metaphorically. Today's to-do list reads like a scavenger hunt written by someone who hates you. Call your cousin about that landscaping gig, message the guy who maybe still owes you $20, and figure out if your old Xbox is worth anything at the pawn shop, even though it hasn't powered on since 2016. Jobs aren't jobs anymore, they're transactions wrapped in fragile agreements. One day, you're helping someone move for gas money. The next, you're standing on a street corner in the rain holding a sign for a sandwich shop that doesn't even give you a free sandwich. You've cleaned out garages, walked strangers' dogs, and spent 5 hours assembling IKEA furniture for someone who paid you in weed and a high five. You don't get a W-2, you get a thanks man and a lukewarm bottle of water. The hustle is constant and the hustle is exhausting. You make calls with a voice that's too cheerful to be honest, asking if there's anything they need done, yard work, errands, maybe help watching the place while they're out of town, whatever that means. You've done Craigslist gigs so sketchy they should come with a waiver, and every time someone flakes, ghosts or underpays you, you tell yourself it's still better than nothing. But barely. Pawning is its own ritual. You walk in with something semi-valuable, headphones, a tablet, maybe that old guitar you keep around for when you get back into music, and walk out with $20 and a receipt that says you tried. The guy behind the counter doesn't even look up anymore. You're a regular. You have a pawn shop loyalty card, metaphorically speaking. You tell yourself you'll buy the item back someday, but deep down you know it's already gone, sold off, melted down, or collecting dust next to someone else's regrets. Then there are the favours. You don't talk about those. Not out loud. Maybe it's giving someone a ride at 2 a.m. to a place they won't name. Maybe it's holding something just for a minute. Maybe it's pretending not to see what's in the bag you're being paid to deliver. These aren't career-building opportunities. They're survival tactics. And every time you say yes, you lose a little piece of something. Pride, trust, comfort. It doesn't matter. Rent's due. Speaking of rent, sometimes it gets paid. Usually late. Often after a conversation with your landlord that involves the phrase, just one more week. You've perfected the art of the excuse. You're a symphony conductor of half-truths. Bank error, lost wallet, sick grandma, weird Venmo glitch, anything to buy time. Time is currency. You spend it in gas station parking lots, counting quarters, praying that whatever hustle you're pulling together today is enough to buy you another night indoors. Budgeting? That's for people with salaries. Your financial plan consists of hope something comes through before Tuesday. You know exactly how far you can stretch a pack of ramen, and you've become an expert in the dark arts of coupon stacking and dollar menu economics. You measure expenses in smokes, sodas, and scratch-off tickets. Health insurance, retirement fund. Those belong to a different universe. But you keep moving, because you have to. Because stopping means sinking. And even if every dollar slips through your fingers like sand, you keep digging. One odd job, one pawned item, one favour at a time. You hustle, not because it's glamorous, but because it's the only rhythm you know anymore. And if the music ever stops, you're not sure what would be left. So you keep dancing, feet sore, wallet empty, grin fake, but still dancing. Because hustle is survival. And for now, survival is enough. Your mum's name pops up on your cracked screen. Guilt crashes in. Do you answer and try to sound normal? Or do you let it ring, knowing she'll leave another voicemail full of hope and disappointment? There's no good choice. Picking up means pretending everything's okay when it clearly isn't, lying through clenched teeth and trying not to sound like you're calling from a hallway closet surrounded by broken fans and broken promises. But letting it go to voicemail means something worse. Silence followed by that familiar voice, worn out from worry, still holding on to some tiny scrap of belief that maybe you're just busy, not drowning. You stare at the screen as it rings. Time slows. The phone feels heavier with her name on it. It used to be a comfort, a tether to a world that still made sense, but now it's a mirror. One that reflects who you were before things got slippery, before you started dodging calls, avoiding holidays, skipping birthdays because the conversations felt like interviews for a life you no longer qualified for. Sometimes you pick up, not because you're ready, but because the guilt wins. You force a smile, hoping it travels through your voice. "Hey, Mum." You hear the pause, just a second too long before she answers, like she's bracing herself for the version of you that might be on the other end today, upbeat and evasive, angry and twitchy, or eerily flat. You keep it light. Talk about the weather, mention you've been keeping busy, and dodge any question that involves the words job, apartment, or are you eating? She means well, of course she does, she always has. But every question feels like a test you're going to fail. Have you thought about going back to school? Do you still talk to your cousin? You know you can always come home, right? And you nod along, even though she can't see it, murmuring affirmatives while your stomach twists into knots. Because going home isn't that simple. Because coming clean would mean explaining just how far things have fallen apart. Because hearing the hope in her voice hurts more than her disappointment ever could. You end the call quickly, an excuse about bad signal, a promise to call her later. You won't, or maybe you will. But not today. Today the shame clings to you like sweat, and the sound of her voice lingers long after you hang up. Not because she said anything harsh, but because she didn't. Because she still believes there's a version of you out there worth waiting for. Other days, you let the phone ring. You watch it buzz, screen cracked like the rest of your life, and feel the weight of everything you're avoiding press down on your chest. You know she'll leave a voicemail. You know it'll start the same way it always does. Soft, hesitant, hopeful. "Hey sweetheart, just checking in." You never listen to the whole thing. You can't. Her voice sounds too familiar, too warm, too much like a life you left behind when things started spinning. And then there's the fear, the quiet panic that one day the calls will stop, that she'll give up, that the next time your phone rings it'll be a sibling or an aunt or someone else telling you that you waited too long, that you missed your shot, that the door you always assumed would be open has quietly, finally closed. You tell yourself you'll call her tomorrow, after you get things together, after you sleep, after you eat something, after you find a way to sound like the person she remembers, but tomorrow keeps slipping further away. So instead, you sit in silence, phone still in hand, heart still aching. And you wonder again how someone can love you so fiercely from a distance, while you struggle to even love yourself enough to answer the call. You doom scroll through filtered faces and motivational quotes, pausing to like a meme about rock bottom. Everyone else seems to have jobs, kids, functioning appliances. You settle for a 5-minute rant in a group chat about government tracking satellites. The feed refreshes itself like it's bored with you. New smiles appear, new houses, new engagement rings catching the light just right. You stare at them with the same detached curiosity you'd reserve for wildlife footage. Fascinating creatures, completely unrelated to your ecosystem. You scroll past a co-worker's promotion, an old friend's baby announcement, a guy you once knew in high school now inexplicably selling real estate. You tap like automatically, your thumb doing charity work for a version of you that used to care. Then come the quotes. Hustle harder, choose joy, wake up at 5 a.m. and dominate the day. You read them like fortune cookies written by someone who's never had to choose between gas and groceries. You try to imagine waking up early for anything other than panic. You can't. You scroll faster, hoping the algorithm will show mercy and switch to something more realistic, like a raccoon stealing pizza. It doesn't. Instead, you get ads. Rehab centres with stock photos of smiling counsellors, teeth whitening kits that promise miracles, productivity apps that assume you own a planner and a future. You close one ad and 3 more appear, as if the internet knows exactly where you're vulnerable and has decided to lean in. You laugh quietly. Of course it does. You drift into stories. Everyone's life looks better in 15-second clips. Coffee foam art, sunlight through clean windows, Someone jogging with a caption about gratitude. You wonder how many takes it took to make their morning look that peaceful. You wonder how many messes were cropped out just beyond the frame. Probably none, you tell yourself. Probably they're just better at life. The comments are worse. So much encouragement. So much agreement. Everyone cheering everyone else on, trading heart emojis like currency. You type something sarcastic, then delete it. No one wants honesty here. Honesty ruins the vibe. You post nothing, say nothing, and keep scrolling like a ghost haunting other people's joy. Eventually you land where you always do. Memes. Self-aware. Bitter. Comforting in their bluntness. A cartoon character lying on the floor labelled me after saying I'll get my life together. You laugh. A real laugh. The kind that catches in your throat. You tap like. Someone else understands, at least enough to make a joke about it. That's when you open the group chat. The one with the people who haven't completely drifted away yet. The conversation is already unhinged. Someone's arguing about aliens. Someone else is sharing a blurry screenshot of a headline taken wildly out of context. This feels safer. You jump in with your own theory, half joking, half sincere about satellites and surveillance and how nothing is actually random. Your phone lights up with replies, laughing emojis. One person tells you to log off, another says you're probably right. For a moment you're part of something again. The rant stretches longer than you meant it to. 5 minutes turns into 10. You pace while typing, words spilling faster than you can think. It's not really about satellites. It's about control, about feeling watched, about needing a reason why everything feels off. You hit send and immediately regret it. Too much, always too much. You mute the chat and return to the feed. The spiral continues. You compare your insides to everyone else's outsides and come up short every time. You start measuring your worth in posts per week and milestones missed. You wonder when exactly you fell behind, and whether there's a way to catch up without admitting how far back you are. Your eyes ache. Your thumb cramps. You're exhausted, but you can't stop. The scroll has momentum now. It carries you past midnight, past hunger, past the quiet voice suggesting you put the phone down and breathe. Eventually you do stop. Not because you're satisfied, but because there's nothing left to see. You lock the screen and stare at the ceiling, the after-images of other people's lives flickering behind your eyelids. The room feels quieter without the feed's constant hum. You take a slow breath. Tomorrow, you tell yourself, you'll scroll less. Tomorrow you'll do something real. For now, you lie there, letting the spiral unwind on its own, hoping sleep will arrive before the algorithm does. Your circle has shrunk to whoever isn't banned from the local 7-Eleven. Loyalty is measured in lighter shares, and who's willing to answer texts at 3 a.m. Trust is a luxury. Betrayal is a given. You don't make friends in this world. You acquire temporary allies, proximity pals. People who are in the same sinking boat and happen to have a bucket or at least a cigarette. It's a grab bag of drifters, lifers, hustlers, and folks one bad choice away from vanishing. Introductions don't involve last names. They start with, "You know where to get," or "Can I borrow your charger?" and end with someone sleeping on your floor without ever asking. Conversations are transactional. Who's got a ride? Who knows a guy? Who's seen Dave? Dave is missing. Dave is always missing. Trust exists in slivers, earned through rides in silence, shared meals of gas station nachos, or the simple act of not stealing from each other that one time. That's what passes for honour here. A loose social contract sealed with smoke, nods, and mutual fatigue. You've got your core three, give or take. Mikey, who always knows someone with a lead. Tara, who has a car that runs on miracles and borrowed gas. And Jay, who's technically couch-surfing through every zip code in the city. You're not close in the traditional sense. You don't talk about dreams or politics or childhood trauma. But you do know what flavour of energy drink each person prefers and who can be counted on to spot you a Newport when it matters most. Of course, it's not all solidarity. People disappear. They ghost. They flake. Sometimes they get clean and quietly stop replying. Sometimes they don't get clean and stop replying for other reasons. You learn not to ask questions you don't want answers to. People drift in and out like bad radio signals, some clearer than others, most gone before you figure out their real name. Betrayal isn't always dramatic. It's small, subtle. Someone borrows your charger and sells it. Someone tells the wrong person about the stash spot behind the laundromat. Someone rats you out because they thought it would buy them another week of peace. You're not surprised anymore. Just disappointed, like a parent whose kid keeps stealing from their wallet and thinks they're slick about it. Still, you keep showing up. You swap info. You share intel. You help someone tape their car window shut or sit with them while they ride out a bad come-down. These aren't grand acts of loyalty, they're just human. Even in chaos, even when your own life is unravelling like a cheap hoodie, you find yourself caring. Not because you can fix them, not because they can fix you, but because misery really does love company, and when you're knee-deep in it, it's nice to know someone else is too. There are moments of strange intimacy, laughing over a shared memory of getting kicked out of the same party, crying silently next to someone who doesn't ask why, holding hands in the parking lot of a rehab centre neither of you are ready to walk into. These people might not be forever, but they're now, and sometimes now is all you've got. But you also know this won't last. Something will happen. Someone will disappear. A fight will break out. Someone will burn a bridge so thoroughly the ash leaves a film on your lungs, and then the circle tightens again, or breaks completely. You keep the goodbyes short. Sometimes they're not even said out loud. Just a nod, a shrug, a look that says, "Be safe," even if neither of you believes that's possible. And when you make a new friend, if that's still the word, you do it with one eye open, and a quiet understanding that in this world companionship is conditional, fleeting, and, if you're lucky, worth the risk. Because even in the lowest places, a little company still beats the cold. Shelters are full, streets are loud, and you've already been kicked off 2 friends' sofas this month. Every night is a negotiation between safety, shame, and whatever keeps you out of the rain. Finding a place to sleep isn't about comfort anymore, it's about calculus. What spot will draw the least attention? Which gas station bathroom doesn't lock at night? Where can you catch 3 hours of sleep without someone trying to rob you, wake you, or ask too many questions? You scroll through your mental Rolodex of maybes and long shots. That underpass near the storage units, the church steps with the overhang, the friend of a friend whose roommate works nights. Each one comes with a risk and a price. You check in with people who might have a couch, keyword, might. But they're tired of the parade. You've overstayed welcomes, outworn patience, and broken just enough things to make you a liability. They're not cruel about it usually, just firm. "Not tonight, man. My girl's home. We're laying low. The message is clear. Find somewhere else." So you wander. Backpack digging into your shoulders, hoodie pulled low, pretending not to look lost. Because looking lost makes you a target. You keep moving. Not because you want to, but because standing still makes you feel like prey. You walk in loops, sometimes for hours, chasing phone battery and open Wi-Fi signals. You duck into convenience stores just to kill time, buy a candy bar to avoid suspicion, and use the bathroom sink to splash your face. It's not shelter, but it's shelter adjacent. You've tried the official route, shelters, missions, warming centres, but they're crowded, loud, and full of rules you can't follow when your brain's running sideways. Lights out at 9, no bags, no substances. You understand the rules, you just can't live inside them. The last time you tried a shelter, someone stole your shoes. The time before that, you woke up to someone screaming about demons in the ceiling. You tell yourself it's safer outside. It isn't. But it feels like it. Park benches are hard, literally and figuratively. You scout the ones away from foot traffic, preferably with a little tree cover. You lie down, hoodie over your eyes, pretending to be invisible. But sleep doesn't come easy. The noise never stops. Sirens, shouting, laughter from bars, footsteps you can't place. Every sound could be danger. Every silence feels like the moment before something bad happens. You startle awake every 20 minutes, neck stiff, heart racing. It's not rest, it's pause. If the weather's bad, you get creative. You've slept in stairwells, inside unlocked laundry rooms, in cars that weren't yours, just cracked the door and prayed. Once, you slept behind a dumpster, curled up in a flattened refrigerator box. It wasn't warm, but it was hidden. You told yourself that counted. Bathrooms become safe zones. Not for long, but long enough to regroup. You learn which gas stations don't kick you out immediately, which fast food chains let you sit without ordering, at least for a while. You avoid eye contact with staff, act like you're waiting for someone, like you belong. You never do, but pretending helps. Eventually you find a spot. Maybe it's a patch of grass behind an apartment complex, or the back booth of a 24-hour diner that doesn't ask questions. It's not ideal, it's not even decent. But it's what you've got. You take off your shoes, hug your backpack to your chest, and try to drift into the kind of shallow sleep that won't let you dream. You miss walls, you miss locks, you miss feeling like you are allowed to exist indoors without explaining yourself. You tell yourself this is temporary, that something will shift, that tomorrow You'll figure it out. But right now, the priority is simple. Stay dry, stay out of sight, and stay alive. Because when the world has no place for you, even a patch of pavement can feel like a lifeline. You've got a lead, a friend of a friend knows a guy. The chase begins. Frantic texts, vague directions, a detour through an alley that smells like regret. Every connection is a gamble, every exchange a potential disaster. This is the part of the day where time bends. Minutes stretch into hours, hours collapse into seconds, and everything revolves around a single pulsing thought you try not to think too loudly. You tell yourself it's just logistics, just coordination, just people talking to people. But your body knows better. Your heart speeds up, your palms sweat, and your brain starts firing off contingency plans like fireworks. If this doesn't work, then what? If that falls through, then who? If everyone ghosts, then where? You wait. Waiting is the hardest part. You refresh your messages, reread the same thread until the words blur. Someone says soon, someone else says hold up. You nod at your phone like it can see you cooperating. Every delay feels personal, like the universe is testing your patience just to watch you fail. You pace, you sit, you stand again. You tell yourself to calm down, which has never once worked for anyone in the history of calming down. Directions arrive in fragments, landmarks instead of addresses, by the place with the blue sign. Not that one, the other one. You recognise the geography more by feeling than memory. Streets you've walked too many times, corners that feel heavier than others. You take a route that avoids eye contact and bright lights. Not because you're hiding, but because your nerves are already stretched thin and the world feels too loud. Every passing car sounds like a siren. Every shadow looks interested. You arrive early. Of course you do. Early means anxious. Early means replaying every possible outcome. You lean against a wall, pretending to check your phone, trying to look like someone with a destination and a purpose. Your thoughts spiral. What if this is a setup? What if someone already talked? What if today is the day everything finally goes sideways? You remind yourself that you've done this before. Many times. You're still here. Mostly. When someone finally shows up, it's never who you expect. Faces blur together. Names are optional. Eye contact is brief and transactional. The conversation is short, clipped, full of half sentences and coded language that doesn't really hide anything. No one wants to linger. Lingering feels dangerous. You keep your voice low, your movements deliberate, hoping your hands don't shake too much. Trust is theoretical here. You extend it not because you believe in people, but because you don't have the luxury of belief. Everyone's nervous. Everyone's in a hurry. The tension hangs thick in the air like static before a storm. You feel exposed even when nothing is happening, especially when nothing is happening, and then it's over. Or it isn't. Sometimes the lead evaporates. Someone stops responding. Someone decides tonight isn't the night. You're left standing there with your heart still racing and nowhere to put it. Those are the worst moments, the ones where all the adrenaline has nowhere to go and the itch starts screaming again. You walk away, pretending you meant to leave anyway, rehearsing the next message in your head. If it works, relief crashes in hard and fast. Not joy. Relief. The kind that makes your knees weak and your thoughts slow down just enough to breathe. You don't celebrate, you don't smile, you just feel the edge dull slightly, like someone turned down the volume on the world. For a moment the fear quiets. The calculations stop. The chase ends. But even in that moment you know the truth. This wasn't a victory, it was a pause. A temporary ceasefire in a war that never really ends. Tomorrow or later tonight, you'll be right back here. Waiting, pacing, negotiating with strangers and with yourself. You walk away from the meeting spot, blending back into the city. Another face in the crowd. The hunt is over for now. But it's never really over. It just goes dormant. Like a storm cloud drifting off the horizon, already planning its return. Paranoia peaks as you spot a cruiser idling down the street. Are they watching you, or is that just the meth talking? You walk fast, then slow, then fast again, trying to look normal. Spoiler. It doesn't work. It never does. Because there's no normal setting once your nerves are fried, and your brain is doing somersaults on an empty stomach and 3 hours of sleep across the last 3 nights. You think you're blending in, hood up, head down, casually walking like a responsible tax-paying citizen. But in reality, you're zigzagging like a Roomba with a bad battery, sweating through your hoodie even though it's 48 degrees out, and checking over your shoulder every 15 seconds like you're starring in your own episode of Cops: The Paranoia Years. The cruiser doesn't move. Its headlights are just there, watching, probably doing paperwork, or maybe running your face through some facial recognition software that flagged you 3 towns ago. You can feel the heat from their gaze even if they're not looking. You convince yourself the dashcam just blinked. You convince yourself they're calling for backup. You convince yourself of a lot of things. You reach into your pocket to grab your phone. Not to do anything, just to hold it. Something about having it in your hand makes you feel tethered to the real world. But you pull it out too fast and suddenly you're the guy reaching for something in front of a police car. Great. Smooth. You shove it back in, then wonder if that looked suspicious. You adjust your pace, again, deciding to walk at exactly "I'm just a normal person getting snack speed," which is impossible, by the way. Try walking like you're not guilty of something when your whole nervous system is a carnival ride and your brain is screaming "don't act suspicious." That thought alone guarantees you will act suspicious. It's like trying not to look at a clown. Now you're just hyper-aware of your arms. Where do they go when you walk? Why are your feet so loud? Do you normally blink this much? You tell yourself it's fine. You didn't do anything today. There's nothing on you. Probably. You mentally catalogue your pockets. Lighter, charger, gum, half a granola bar, and... wait, is that a glass stem? You panic, heart rate spiking. You shuffle a little to readjust your pants and quietly manoeuvre it into your sock. Now you're limping a bit. Awesome. Nothing says totally not suspicious like someone limping with one hand in their hoodie and the other holding their phone like it's a grenade. The cruiser finally starts to move. Slowly. Casually. Like it's not about you. But you know better. That's how they do it. They creep past, windows up, sunglasses on, even though it's night time. You avoid eye contact. You pretend to check a fake notification. You nod like you're on an important call with someone who still trusts you. When the taillights disappear around the corner, you exhale like you've been underwater. You laugh nervously, then stop yourself, because laughing at nothing is also a red flag. You duck into a convenience store just to be under fluorescent lights and around other people, like witnesses are your best legal defense. You grab a bottle of water and pretend to browse energy drinks. The clerk watches you. You smile. Too wide. The security camera blinks above the fridge. You stay in there until your pulse slows, until your hands stop shaking, until your brain decides you're not being followed by unmarked sedans or overhead helicopters. Even then, when you finally step back onto the sidewalk, every car engine makes you flinch, because out here, reality is blurry, and the line between paranoia and pattern recognition is razor thin. Maybe they were watching, maybe they weren't. Doesn't matter. You've lived long enough to know that in this life, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not keeping tabs, so you keep walking, carefully, quietly, eyes forward, heart pounding like a snare drum in a marching band you didn't ask to join. You're not running, but you're not stopping either, because out here, the game never really ends, only resets. P2P Meth isn't made in a lab with white coats. It's a miracle of discount hardware stores, gas canisters, and someone's cousin who watched too much Breaking Bad. The smell alone could burn off your eyebrows and your sense of dignity. You know this before you even see it. Before the bag changes hands. Before anyone says a word, the air tells you. It hits your nose like a chemical slap. Sharp, sweet, rotten, and metallic, all at once. Not the clean, clinical kind of danger you imagine from movies, but the off-brand kind. The kind that feels like it was assembled in a garage with poor lighting and worse judgment. Your eyes water, your throat tightens, your brain whispers, "This can't be good." You ignore it. Everyone ignores it. That's the unspoken rule. You don't ask questions. You don't comment on colour, texture, or smell. You don't mention how it looks different this time, or how it feels heavier somehow, like it's carrying extra regret. You accept it the way you accept gas station sushi, aware of the risks, but too far gone to care. You've crossed that bridge already. Might as well keep walking. This is chemistry by vibes alone. No quality control, no standards, no refunds. Every batch is a surprise, like a cursed mystery box. Sometimes it's too strong, sometimes it's barely there, and sometimes it does things to your body that make you wonder if you've finally gone allergic to reality. Your heart flutters, your hands shake, your stomach churns like it's offended on principle. You tell yourself it's normal. You tell yourself everything is normal now. You remember when it didn't smell like this. Or maybe you don't. Memory gets slippery after a while. All you know is that this version leaves a residue, not just on your fingers, but in your lungs, your clothes, your thoughts. The smoke clings to everything. Your hoodie smells like it. Your backpack smells like it. You smell like it. No amount of cologne or gum fixes that. You've got the scent of poor decisions baked into your pores, and still you do the ritual. Carefully. Reverently. Like this is some sacred practice passed down through generations of people who should have known better. You prep, you wait, you brace yourself. There's a moment, always a moment, where you hesitate, where your body flinches before your mind catches up. Then it's over, and the hesitation feels silly. Ancient history. You're already on the other side. The rush comes, or it doesn't. Sometimes it's a wave, sometimes it's a sputter. Sometimes it's like revving an engine that won't quite turn over. Your teeth clench, your jaw tightens, your thoughts scatter like startled birds. The world sharpens around the edges, then blurs. You feel powerful for exactly 6 seconds, then hollow for much longer. It's not euphoria anymore, it's maintenance, like topping off oil in a car that's already on fire. You notice the side effects piling up, sores that won't heal, burns where they shouldn't be, a cough that sounds deeper every day, like it's trying to say something important. Your body keeps score even when you don't want to. You promise yourself you'll be more careful next time, even though there's no such thing as careful here. Only lucky. Someone jokes about it, calls it artisanal, laughs about how nothing's pure anymore. You laugh too, because the alternative is sitting quietly with the truth. This stuff is wrecking you faster than the old kind ever did. It's cheaper, harsher, and meaner. Built for speed, not safety. For profit, not people. Later, when the edge wears off and the crash creeps in, the smell comes back. In your hair, on your hands, in your breath. It's a reminder you can't wash away. You scrub anyway. Soap, water, hope. None of it works. Some things soak in too deep. You lie back and stare at the ceiling, heart still racing, body buzzing with borrowed energy. Bargain bin chemistry did its job for now. But you know the cost is coming. It always does. And next time, it'll want more. You eat when you remember, which isn't often. Food is fuel, not pleasure. Microwave burritos, gas station burritos, leftover pizza from 3 days ago. Your stomach hates you, and the feeling is mutual. Hunger doesn't arrive politely anymore. It ambushes you. 1 minute you're jittery and wired, the next you're lightheaded, hands shaking, wondering why the room feels tilted. You forgot to eat again, or you ate something that technically counts as calories, but emotionally qualifies as a cry for help. Either way, your body sends up a flare, and you respond with the enthusiasm of someone who's been burned before. You open the fridge and stare. Inside is a half-empty bottle of something fizzy, a packet of sauce with no origin story, and a slice of pizza that's gone from questionable to bold. You do the math, smell test, visual inspection. You convince yourself heat kills everything. You're probably right. Probably. You fold the slice in half like it's a taco and eat it standing up, because sitting down feels like commitment. Food used to be an event. Breakfast had rules. Lunch had structure. Dinner came with a table and maybe a conversation. Now it's opportunistic grazing, like a raccoon with a phone. You eat what's there, when it's there, because thinking about meals requires planning, and planning requires a future. You keep snacks in your pockets, protein bars that taste like chalk, candy that melts into lint. Sugar is reliable. Sugar doesn't judge. Sometimes you try to do better. You buy bananas. They go brown. You buy salad. It liquefies in the crisper drawer, becoming a cautionary tale. You swear you'll cook something real, maybe even use a pan, but by the time you're home your hands are shaking and the stove feels like a complicated puzzle designed to punish you. The microwave becomes your sous chef. It hums patiently while you wait for the beep like it's delivering medicine. Your stomach has opinions, loud ones. It cramps, it burns, it sloshes like it's holding a grudge. Acid reflux pays regular visits, uninvited but persistent. You swallow antacids like they're mints and hope the fire recedes. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just simmers, a low-grade reminder that bodies remember neglect even when minds don't want to. Eating in public is a whole separate ordeal. You avoid it. People watch. People notice. You imagine them counting your bites, clocking your speed, judging your choices. So you eat in cars and corners behind buildings. Wherever you can be alone with your shame and your burrito, you unwrap it carefully, mindful of the sauce that always leaks no matter how cautious you are. You wipe your hands on your jeans and promise you'll wash them later. There are days when food feels actively hostile. Nothing sounds good. Everything smells wrong. You take a bite and gag, not from taste but from exhaustion. Chewing feels like work. Swallowing feels optional. You live on liquids for a while, energy drinks, soda, whatever keeps you upright. Your body adapts in ways that are impressive and terrifying. You lose weight, then you gain it back in weird places. Your clothes stop fitting right and you stop caring. Every once in a while you stumble into a real meal. A friend offers leftovers. A diner is open late. Someone cooks and hands you a plate without asking questions. You eat slowly, almost reverently, surprised by warmth and texture and the feeling of being fed. For a few minutes, your shoulders drop. Your breathing steadies. You remember what it's like to feel normal. Then it's gone, and you're back to wrappers and crumbs. You tell yourself you'll do better tomorrow. Eggs, oatmeal, something green. You mean it. You always do. But tomorrow has its own agenda, and hunger will arrive whenever it wants, not when it's convenient. So you keep eating like this, erratically, imperfectly, keeping yourself alive on the margins. Because even when your stomach hates you, it still shows up, still growls, still asks. And most days, that's enough reason to answer, even if the answer is another burrito, another compromise, another small act of survival. Romance is complicated when everyone you date is either your dealer, your competition, or both. Conversations start at midnight, end at sunrise, and always circle back to one question. Who's holding? Love, in this world, is less about candlelit dinners and more about shared cigarettes behind dumpsters. You bond over trauma, over withdrawal, over that one time you both got banned from the same gas station. There's a closeness to it, a raw, aching intimacy. It's not that you don't care, it's that caring gets filtered through survival. You know their favourite soda, their triggers, their dealer's number. You've shared your last pill and your last secret. But you've also accused them of stealing your lighter 3 times in one night. Trust is rationed, carefully, like you're handing out water in a drought. You watch each other's pockets, you memorise each other's lies, you learn to tell the difference between a real nod and a junkie nod. You hope they'll call when they disappear, but deep down you know they might not. Because they're chasing something too, and sometimes that thing isn't you. Arguments are inevitable. They don't even need a reason. They erupt out of fatigue, paranoia, scarcity. One of you used the last of the foil. One of you forgot the meeting time. One of you looked at someone else too long. Next thing you know, someone's yelling in a parking lot while the other is crying through clenched teeth and a nicotine fit. It's passion. It's dysfunction. It's both. Still, there are soft moments. Fleeting, fragile, and somehow more painful because of how rare they are. A shared hoodie on a cold night. A stolen kiss while waiting for a ride that never comes. Laughing together about something truly stupid, like a bird that walked instead of flying, or a vending machine that ate your dollar twice. For a second, you're not addicts. You're just 2 people trying to hold on to something warm in a cold world. But the drugs always come first. They always do. You tell yourself otherwise, but it's a lie you both silently agree to believe. Once we're clean, it'll be different. Once we move, we'll start over. Once this batch runs out. But the batch never runs out. Not really. And when it does, so does the truce. Every connection becomes transactional. Every favour has a price. Every I love you starts to sound like a prelude to a request. Jealousy is its own flavour here. Not the romantic kind, the logistical kind. Who's got a better sauce? Who got their check early? Who scored while the other was sleeping? You scroll through each other's phones. You cross-reference timelines. You try to stay chill, but you're both too wired, too exhausted, too broken to hold it together. Sometimes you break up, dramatically. You pack your stuff into a torn grocery bag, say I'm done, and storm out into the night. Then you're back the next day, asking if they've seen your charger. You sit on opposite ends of the bed, pretending you don't care. Then one of you says something stupid, and suddenly you're laughing again because what else is there? But other times it ends for real. They vanish. Or you do. Someone gets arrested. Someone relapses. Someone finally burns the last bridge. And just like that, the shared routines, the inside jokes, the weird little love language of scarcity and chaos, it's gone. You don't even know who they're with now. You just hope they're not dead. You tell yourself you don't care, but you still check the news, just in case. Love in the world of P2P Meth isn't a fairy tale. It's a balancing act on a crumbling bridge. It's codependence, camouflage, and chaos. But it's real. At least, it feels real in the moments between the highs and the heartbreak. And even in the mess, you still catch yourself wishing things were different. That maybe somehow someone could love you without also needing to fix you, or score for you. But for now, you settle for whoever texts back first, whoever shows up, whoever doesn't flinch when you say, let's just lay low tonight. Because even love, out here, is just another way to feel less alone. You're on day 3 without real sleep. The walls are moving, the shadows are talking, and you're pretty sure you just had a deep conversation with the kitchen faucet. Time is a myth. Insomnia is the only constant. You stopped checking the clock after the first night. Somewhere around 3 a.m., time loses meaning anyway. The numbers start repeating, mocking you. They blink in green or blue or red, depending on the appliance you're staring at, and none of them make sense. You try to count the hours you've been awake, but give up. It's easier to just exist in this strange, twitching limbo, somewhere between yesterday and never. Your brain won't turn off. It's buzzing like a cheap fluorescent bulb, flickering between racing thoughts and fragmented memories. 1 second you're remembering your 3rd grade teacher, the next you're rewriting your entire life story in the form of a legal defense. There's a high-pitched whine in your ears that might be tinnitus, or just the sound of your mind short-circuiting. Either way, it's company. Your body's exhausted, but your thoughts are wide awake and feral. You try lying down. Big mistake. Every muscle protests. Your skin feels like it doesn't fit. The blanket is too heavy, the air is too loud, and your heartbeat is performing a solo concert in your neck. You flip over once, then again, then a dozen more times before giving up entirely. Sleep doesn't come. It doesn't even try. You try distractions, music, videos, old podcasts you've heard 100 times. Anything to trick your mind into settling down. But your brain is a defiant toddler refusing a nap. You replay old conversations, rehearse imaginary arguments, and spiral through a parade of irrational worries. Did you leave the stove on 3 days ago? Why did that guy at the bus stop look at you funny? A bird spying on you? That last one makes you laugh, out loud. That's when you realise you're talking to yourself. Again. Your reflection in the mirror is not a friend. The circles under your eyes have evolved into trenches. Your pupils are wide, unblinking, jittery. Your face looks pixelated somehow, familiar but off, like a low-res version of yourself. You splash water on it just to feel something. The cold sting reminds you that yes, you're still awake, still here. And then come the hallucinations. Not the big dramatic ones, no shadow people or giant spiders, just the subtle stuff. Things moving slightly when they shouldn't. Words on a sign rearranging themselves. A curtain shifting even though the window is closed. You know it's your brain playing tricks, but you play along. It's easier than questioning everything. You pace. You clean things that don't need cleaning. You alphabetize snacks. You start a new list of goals you'll never complete, then immediately forget what you were doing. Every task takes twice as long and ends with something broken or misplaced. You once microwaved a fork and didn't even blink, just took it out, shrugged, and moved on. At some point, food stops sounding good. So does water. So does talking. Your body feels like a rental car that's been driven too far without maintenance. Achy, unresponsive, and full of strange noises. But the worst part isn't physical, it's emotional. The slow unravelling of your ability to care about anything. Joy is distant. Fear is foggy. Everything is just grey. Muted. Like your life has been wrapped in bubble wrap and dropped behind a couch. You wonder how much longer you can go without sleep. A part of you is curious. The rest is terrified. You Google how long can a human survive without sleep and close the tab halfway through reading it. Better not to know. Better to keep moving, keep scrolling, keep pacing in circles like a caged animal. Eventually your body will collapse. It always does. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe in the middle of a sentence. But until then, you drift through this sleepless haze, strung out on nothing but adrenaline, anxiety, and the hope that next time the darkness behind your eyelids might actually stick. But for now, you're awake. Still, always. There's a warrant with your name on it probably. You've memorized the best hiding spots, the fastest routes out of the neighborhood, and how to sweet-talk your way through the world's least convincing alibi. You don't know for sure. That's the fun part. The uncertainty hums under your skin like a loose wire. Maybe it's real. Maybe it expired. Maybe it was for something small that snowballed because you missed a court date you never knew about. You try not to think about it, which of course means you think about it constantly. Every siren becomes a personal message. Every knock echoes too loudly. You learn to read reflections in store windows, checking for flashing lights that aren't there. Yet, you've got a mental map of exits now. Which alley has the broken gate? Which fence leans just enough to climb if you're motivated? Which streets are dead ends disguised as shortcuts? You don't walk straight lines anymore. You zigzag, loop back, pretend to window shop, pause at crosswalks you don't need. You've perfected the art of looking like you belong anywhere while planning your escape from everywhere. Talking to authority is a performance. You rehearse it. Calm voice, neutral face, slight confusion, but not too much. You've learned that confidence invites questions and panic invites suspicion, so you aim for mild inconvenience. The tone of someone who's late for something boring. You keep your hands visible, your answers short, your story simple. You never volunteer details. You learned that the hard way. Your alibi's always under construction. You were at a friend's place. Which friend? You'll remember in a second. You were working. On what? Landscaping. Always landscaping. It's vague enough to be believable and boring enough to end the conversation. If pressed, you pivot. You laugh. You shrug. You apologize. Apologies grease the wheels of the world. You say sorry like punctuation. You avoid places that ask for ID. Bars, clinics, government buildings, anything with a clipboard. You've memorized which convenience stores scan IDs for energy drinks and which ones don't care. You know which bus drivers enforce fares and which wave you through with a tired nod. The city reveals itself differently when you're always a half step from trouble. You see the seams, the gaps, the places where rules loosen their grip. Your phone is a liability. You delete messages. You clear call logs. You turn off location services like it's a ritual. You keep it on silent, not because you're polite, but because surprise sounds make your heart try to leave your body. You consider ditching it entirely, then remember it's your lifeline to everything you don't want to face alone. You keep it. You just treat it like it might explode. Every now and then someone tells you to just take care of it. Go to court, call a lawyer, square it away. You nod, like that's a reasonable suggestion, and not a maze designed to eat you alive. Money, paperwork, appointments, waiting rooms, it all feels impossible when your brain is already juggling 10 emergencies. You promise yourself you'll handle it when things calm down. Things never calm down. Sleep makes it worse. In dreams, you're always being chased, always just out of breath, always one turn away from freedom. You wake up with your jaw clenched and your sheets twisted, heart racing like it's trying to confess something. Even rest isn't safe. Even rest feels like it's on probation. And yet, days pass. Weeks, sometimes. Nothing happens, no knock, no arrest. The world keeps spinning, indifferent to your anxiety. You start to relax just a little. You tell yourself you are paranoid. You tell yourself you're fine. You almost believe it. Then a cop car rolls by a little too slow, or someone mentions your name in a hushed voice, or you get a letter with an official-looking envelope that you don't open. The wire hums again. You straighten up. You adjust your story. You keep moving. Living like this doesn't make you tough. It makes you tired. Tired of scanning faces, of rehearsing lies, of carrying a future that might collapse over a missed signature. You don't feel like a criminal. You feel like a person who forgot to fill out a form and never recovered. So you keep your head down and your pace steady. You don't ask questions you don't want answers to, and you tell yourself the same thing you always do. If it hasn't caught up to you yet, maybe it never will. For today, that's good enough. WebMD is your enemy. You try to detox with energy drinks and hope. You Google how to regrow teeth and scroll until the anxiety is louder than your tinnitus. Spoiler, it doesn't help. The rabbit hole of DIY health advice becomes its own form of psychosis. You're not just sick, you're researching being sick. You're treating your body like a broken toaster you might be able to fix with enough YouTube videos and half a bottle of apple cider vinegar. The internet tells you to stay hydrated. You nod seriously while sipping on a Monster energy drink and chewing a piece of mint gum that expired in 2018. Hydration achieved. You try vitamins next. Someone at a gas station once swore by B12, So you buy a megadose pill that smells like pencil shavings and optimism. You take 2, maybe 3. You don't feel better, but your pee glows like a cartoon nuclear spill. That's probably good, right? Like it's purging the demons. You imagine toxins fleeing your kidneys like rats from a burning ship. Then there's the charcoal phase. You read somewhere it's good for cleansing. You mix it into a smoothie made of protein powder, expired almond milk, and crushed Tums. You choke it down while watching a motivational video called "Your Comeback Starts Now." You cry halfway through, not because you believe it, but because your stomach is trying to exit your body and your blender is broken again. You start tracking your symptoms like a wellness blogger on a downward spiral. Headache? Always. Nausea? Sure. Dizziness? Constant. Your jaw clicks, your gums bleed, your nails are thin, and your skin is breaking out in a pattern that suspiciously resembles Morse code. You stare at it in the mirror and wonder if your body is trying to tell you something. Probably please stop. You go through a ginger phase, then turmeric, then some sketchy CBD gummies that don't taste like anything found in nature. You experiment with diets. Intermittent fasting turns into accidental starvation. Keto lasts until you remember you can't afford avocado, and carnivore ends when your body rebels against yet another gas station Slim Jim. One night you brew herbal tea with a stolen microwave and tap water that smells vaguely like chlorine and regret. You read the label. It promises relaxation and detoxification, and something called spiritual clarity. It mostly tastes like boiled lawn clippings. You drink it anyway. You convince yourself you feel better, until 20 minutes later when your heart rate spikes and you're Googling Kentucky's hallucinations. You keep going. Essential oils, garlic pills, foot baths. You once duct-taped magnets to your back for alignment and slept on the floor because someone on Reddit said mattresses were slowly poisoning you. That night, you woke up convinced your spine had folded into a question mark. You spent the next day stretching like a confused yoga cultist in an abandoned strip mall. The worst part is that sometimes, just sometimes, you feel a little better. Just enough to give you hope. Just enough to make you think one more trick might do the job. You chase that high like it's a cure, even when it's clearly a fluke, and when the crash comes, as it always does, you blame yourself for not drinking enough lemon water, for using the wrong kind of salt, for not meditating harder. You avoid doctors, not because you don't want help, but because help comes with paperwork and judgment and bills you can't pay. Instead, you self-diagnose. You read forums. You piece together symptoms like a conspiracy board. One night you're convinced you have scurvy. The next, it's liver failure. Every twinge is a red flag. Every sneeze is a prophecy. But you keep trying. You keep swallowing pills, sipping teas, sniffing essential oils, and whispering affirmations like spells. Because even if none of it works, at least you're doing something. And in a world where your health feels like a slow-motion car crash, that effort is the only control you've got left. Your stuff disappears. Wallet, keys, dignity. Sometimes you find things you forgot existed, like a birthday card from 2 years ago. Most of the time, you just lose track of yourself. You retrace your steps, even though they don't go anywhere. You check under the mattress, in the freezer, behind the couch, again. You already checked there, but it doesn't matter. Things vanish in this world, and not because someone took them. They dissolve, slip through the cracks of your attention, and once they're gone, they're really gone. Like your driver's license or your good lighter, or any shred of your former organisational skills. You've stopped keeping a proper wallet. Now it's just a wad of cards rubber banded together with cash that's mostly crumpled ones and quarters. You lose it often. Sometimes it turns up in your sock, sometimes inside the microwave. Once it was in the freezer next to a bottle of nail polish and a single chicken nugget. There was no explanation. You didn't need one. Keys are a whole other problem. You've tried every trick, carabiners, lanyards, colour-coded rings. They still escape. You once found them in your shoe after spending an hour dismantling your entire living space. And by living space, I mean the corner of a room you crash in, the backseat of a friend's car, or a backpack that somehow contains more trash than items. Every time you lose them, a small part of you thinks, maybe I don't need doors anymore. Maybe I should just start climbing in through windows. Phones? Phones are like ghosts. You swear they move on their own. 1 minute it's in your hand, the next it's under a pizza box or between the couch cushions or mysteriously wedged inside your pillowcase. You've used the flashlight app to look for the phone you're holding. You've called it only to realise it's on silent or dead, or set to airplane mode for some paranoid reason you no longer remember. But it's not just the objects. It's the moments. You lose time. Whole hours vanish. You look at the clock and realize you've been standing in the kitchen staring at a spoon. You were going to eat, or wash it, or maybe use it to scrape something off the floor, but now you're not sure. You put it down, walk away, and try to act like that makes sense. You find strange things you didn't know you had, a shoebox full of old receipts, a bracelet with no clasp, a sock with someone else's initials stitched into it. You find half-written notes in your own handwriting with cryptic lines like "Don't forget the purple thing" or "12th and Main equals danger." You read them like clues in a mystery you forgot you were solving. Sometimes you find people. An old text thread with someone who used to matter, a voicemail you never listened to, a photo buried in your gallery from a night you mostly remember for the wrong reasons. It feels like opening a window into a version of yourself that was more put together, or at least better at pretending to be. You scroll for too long, then slam the door shut. Not today. And yeah, sometimes you find yourself in a good song that hits different, in the way your hands move automatically when rolling a cigarette or counting change, in the rhythm of your walk when the sun's just right and no one's watching. Those are rare, but they count. Because even when everything's chaotic and crumbling, even when you feel like a passenger in your own life, there are tiny moments when you remember who you were supposed to be. But then the feeling slips, like the lighter, like the spoon, like your ID and your charger and the version of your brain that remembered birthdays. You're back to rummaging through piles of laundry that may or may not be yours. You're back to muttering, "Where the hell did I put?" before trailing off into silence. And in that silence, you accept it. You're not organised, you're not consistent, but you're still moving, still searching, still alive somehow in the wreckage of all the things you've lost. That, at least, is something you've managed to keep. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a storefront window. Who is that? You barely recognise the gaunt face, the sunken eyes, the haunted expression. You look away. It's easier than facing the truth. Mirrors are no longer useful. They used to be for adjusting your hair, checking your teeth, maybe taking a selfie when you still had the energy to care. Now they're landmines, glass reminders of what this life is doing to you. You avoid them when you can, dark windows, bathroom stalls, the rearview mirror in a car that isn't yours. You wipe steam from a cracked mirror only to flinch at the image staring back. It's not just the physical change, it's the absence of who you used to be. Your eyes look older than they should, not wiser, just worn. Like they've seen too much of the wrong things and none of the right ones. The skin around them is purpled and sagging, like time has been tugging at your face while you weren't paying attention. You try to smile to test if your reflection still knows how. It does, but the smile looks like it's apologising. You take stock. Cheekbones sharp enough to slice bread. Lips cracked, pale. Acne and scabs from picking, from stress, from whatever's in your system today. Hair unwashed, sticking out like it's trying to escape. You try to tidy it with your hands and realise you haven't brushed it in days, weeks. You can't tell anymore. Time folds in on itself like a poorly stacked towel. Clothes hang different now, looser, baggier, misshapen. Not because of fashion, but because your body is melting out of them. You've lost weight in weird places. Your belt doesn't fit right. Your sleeves hide your arms, and maybe that's for the best. Every bruise has a backstory. Every scratch has a punchline. You stopped wearing white ages ago. It shows too much. You lean closer to the mirror, curious, in spite of yourself. You study the lines on your face, the new ones, the ones that weren't there when all this started. You look for signs of life, a spark, a trace of the person who used to pose in this mirror before going out with friends, before meth turned every mirror into a confrontation. And then come the voices, not real ones, but the inner commentary, cruel and familiar. Look at you. You're a mess. You used to be someone people admired. You tell the voice to shut up, but it doesn't listen. It never does. It's been living in your head rent-free for years, growing louder every time you catch your reflection in a screen or a puddle or a polished car hood. Some days you try to fix it. You wash your face, you comb your hair, you borrow someone's deodorant and slap it on like armour. You stare in the mirror and say, "Not bad," even if it's a lie. But the energy doesn't last. By noon the grime is back. By evening the same shirt is stained. By the next morning you're ducking mirrors again. People don't mention it. They see it, but they don't say anything. Maybe they don't want to be rude. Maybe they think you already know, or maybe in this world, everyone's too busy hiding from their own reflection to comment on yours. You wonder sometimes if there's a version of you out there in the multiverse who still has clear skin and a driver's license photo they're not ashamed of. Someone who wakes up refreshed, brushes their teeth and doesn't flinch at their own shadow. It's a funny thought. Not funny haha. Funny like an itch you can't reach. Eventually you stop looking altogether. You use the mirror to check for cops behind you, not to check your face. You take photos only when absolutely necessary, and even then you crop yourself out. You become a blur in your own life. Easier that way. But even when you look away, the mirror is still there. Waiting. Quiet. Honest. And every so often it catches you off guard. It says, "This is you," and you say, "Not for long." You remember birthdays, holidays, childhood road trips, but they feel like someone else's life. Every phone call is a reminder of the person you used to be and the bridge you've burned to get here. The distance isn't just physical. It's emotional, psychological, invisible, but thick. Like molasses poured between who you are now and who you were back when you sat at the dinner table and passed the mashed potatoes without shame. Those memories come in like static, soft, fuzzy, half real. Your mum calling you in for dinner, your dad making dumb jokes while pumping gas on a road trip, your sister stealing your hoodie and pretending she didn't. They're warm, blurry snapshots from a timeline that no longer exists. These days you screen calls like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. Seeing mom on your cracked screen sends your stomach into freefall. Not because you don't love her. You do. That's the problem. It's because love now comes with a side of guilt and a heaping portion of dread. If you answer, you'll hear the tremor in her voice, that shaky cocktail of worry, hope and disappointment. If you don't, she'll leave a message anyway. Her tone a mix of forced cheerfulness and unsaid prayers. You've learned how to lie gently. "I'm doing okay. I'm working on getting things together. It's just been busy." She nods along, even though she doesn't believe it. She hears the rasp in your voice, the pauses too long between words. She pretends not to. She asks if you've eaten, if you've been sleeping, if you've thought about coming home for a few days. You say maybe because no hurts too much. Sometimes they set boundaries, ultimatums, offers of help with strings attached, rehab, a job, a place to stay if you follow the rules. But the rules feel impossible. Be sober, be stable, be the version of yourself that didn't need those things. You want to say yes. You want to walk through the door and sit down for a normal meal and not feel like a ghost wearing your own skin. But you know better, you've tried before, and when you slip, again, it cuts deeper. You stop calling, you stop replying, you convince yourself it's for their sake, that they're better off not knowing. That silence is a kindness, but really it's shame, the kind that rots from the inside, the kind that tells you you're not worth the effort, that you're the weak link in the chain, that their lives are easier without your weight dragging behind them. Photos make it worse. A cousin's wedding, a sibling's graduation, a baby shower you weren't invited to, or maybe you were and forgot. You scroll through smiling faces and feel like you're watching a show you used to star in, now replaced by a more reliable understudy. No one says it, but you know. You've become the cautionary tale, the story whispered at family reunions. We just don't know what happened. He had so much potential. You send a text once in a while, happy birthday, tell grandma I said hi. No replies half the time, and when they do respond, it's polite, distant, like they're talking to someone they used to know and aren't sure whether to let back in. You can't blame them. Trust, like everything else, wears out, and yours is threadbare. But in your darkest moments, when the high fades, when you're alone on a stained mattress or curled up in the back of a car that isn't yours, you remember. The feel of your mum's hug, the way your dad laughed when you finally beat him at cards, the way your little brother used to look up to you like you were a superhero, and you think maybe someday, maybe one day you'll knock on the door and they'll open it. Maybe you'll sit at the table again, pass the mashed potatoes and not feel like a stranger. But not today. Today, you silence the call. Because some bridges are still smouldering, and you haven't yet figured out how to stop lighting the matches. Rock bottom isn't a place, it's a feeling. It's waking up on the floor, realizing you missed another job interview and wondering if today is the day you finally ask for help, or just start the whole cycle over again. There's no dramatic crash. No big life-defining moment where everything breaks with a bang. It's quieter than that. Slower. more like a leak you didn't notice until your whole world is damp and mouldy. You open your eyes, and the first thing you feel isn't pain, it's nothing. That cold, hollow kind of numb that sits behind your ribs and stretches through your limbs like fog. You don't cry, you don't panic, you just stare at the ceiling and feel like furniture. Your phone is dead. Again. Or maybe it's lost. Again. You don't even look for it right away. What's the point? The only thing waiting on the other end is a calendar full of missed obligations and voicemails from people who used to believe in you. You remember setting an alarm. You remember telling yourself you wouldn't mess this one up. You even laid your clothes out the night before. Nice ones. The kind that don't smell like regret. Now it's 2 PM, and the sun coming through the blinds feels like an accusation. Your room smells like old fast food and despair. You don't even flinch when you realise your shirt is on inside out. Or that you slept on the floor again, even though there's technically a mattress in the room. It just felt easier, less complicated. Closer to where you already were mentally. This isn't the worst you've felt. That's the scariest part. You've already catalogued worse. You've survived nights with no shelter, mornings with no clue where you were, days with no food, no hope, no memory of what came before. But this is the moment where the silence stretches long enough that you finally ask yourself, how did I get here again? You replay the choices, the missteps, the little compromises that stacked like bricks until you couldn't see the way out. You think about the job you almost held on to, the relationship that might have worked, the friend who said, call me any time, and hasn't heard from you in 6 months. You think about every time you said, this is the last time, and how convincing you sounded, even to yourself. You sit up slowly, head pounding, limbs aching like you've aged decades overnight. There's a bruise on your arm you don't remember getting. Your mouth tastes like metal and broken promises. You stumble toward the sink, splash water on your face, and catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror. It's not pretty, but it's honest. And then comes the question, is this the bottom? You don't know. The bottom has layers, subfloors, hidden trapdoors. Every time you think you've reached it, the floor gives way again. You tell yourself that's poetic, maybe even funny in a cruel kind of way, but mostly it's exhausting. You stare at the faucet for a long time. You could call someone. You could clean the room. You could eat. You could sit in the shower and let the water wash away a fraction of the filth, inside and out. You could. But instead, you sit back down on the floor and pull the blanket over your shoulders, not because you want to give up, but because momentum is gone, and starting over feels like trying to move a building with your bare hands. Still, you think about help. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way, just in a tired, honest one. You think about what it might feel like to not do this alone anymore, about what a different morning could look like, clean sheets, a warm meal, a voice that says, it's okay, you're not broken, you're just tired. But that's for another day. For now, you breathe. You sit in the stillness, surrounded by silence and consequence. Rock bottom isn't loud, it's quiet. And somehow, in that quiet, you start to hear the smallest whisper of something that might one day be hope. Every day ends the same way. Staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks, making deals with yourself about tomorrow. You promise this is the last time, but the sunrise brings more of the same. Still, somewhere under the exhaustion and the heartbreak, you wonder, could things ever be different? Night settles in quietly, like it's trying not to wake you. The room hums with leftover noise, distant traffic, a refrigerator clicking on and off, the faint buzz in your ears that never quite leaves. You lie there, hands folded on your chest, breathing shallow, as if deep breaths might cost extra. The ceiling has a geography now. That long crack looks like a river. That stain looks like a map of a place you almost went once. You trace them with your eyes until they blur. This is the hour of bargaining. You negotiate with a version of yourself that never answers back. Tomorrow you'll eat better. Tomorrow you'll make the call. Tomorrow you'll sleep. Tomorrow you'll stop. The promises stack up, neat and hopeful, like folded laundry you never put away. They feel sincere in the dark. They always do. The dark is generous like that. Your body finally slows, but your mind keeps inventory. Regrets shuffle through like unpaid bills, missed chances, unsent messages, the interview you forgot, the friend you meant to check on. You tell yourself you'll fix it. You're good at telling yourself things. You've had a lot of practice. Sometimes the haze feels protective, a soft fog that dulls the sharpest edges. It keeps the panic from screaming, the guilt from getting too loud. You know it's not real comfort, but it's familiar, and familiarity is soothing when everything else feels unpredictable. The haze says, rest. You can think about it later. And later never comes. Other nights, hope slips in quietly, uninvited. Not the big, inspirational kind. Just a small, stubborn thought that refuses to leave. What if you didn't wake up like this forever? What if one morning you opened your eyes and the ceiling didn't feel like an accusation? What if there was coffee that tasted good, a shower that felt clean, a day that didn't require armour? The thought is dangerous. You treat it carefully, like a candle in a drafty room. You've seen change before, brief flashes, a good week. A moment where things lined up and you almost believed the story could turn. Then something happened, or didn't, and the ground shifted again. You learned not to trust momentum. It has a habit of disappearing when you need it most. You roll onto your side and pull the blanket up even though it's thin. The weight helps, anchors you. You listen to your own breathing and try to match it to the rhythm of the room. In, out. Slow enough to trick your nervous system into standing down. For a few minutes it works. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. You feel almost okay. That's when the question comes back. Softer this time. Not accusing. Curious. Could things ever be different? You don't answer it. You let it sit there hovering like a note you're not ready to read. You don't need answers tonight. Tonight is about getting through. About letting your body shut down enough to reset, even if just a little. Sleep arrives in pieces. Not the deep, healing kind, but a patchwork of half-dreams and quiet moments. You drift. You wake. You drift again. Somewhere between one crack in the ceiling and the next, the deals you made start to loosen. They don't disappear. They just wait. Morning will come whether you're ready or not. It always does. And when it does, you'll do what you've been doing all along. You'll get up. You'll move forward. Maybe clumsily. Maybe tired. But still moving. Hope or haze. Tonight, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Tonight, it can be both. And for now, that's enough. Sometimes you score a night indoors, an off-brand motel on the wrong side of town, where the front desk clerk doesn't ask for a real name and the bedspread is older than TikTok. You lay on top of the covers, never under, listening to the symphony of distant sirens, ice machine groans, and the existential hum of fluorescent lights. It's luxury if you squint, until you remember why you can't stay 2 nights in a row. The carpet smells like damp secrets and old feet. There's a mystery stain near the corner of the bed that you try very hard not to think about. The remote is sticky. The lamp wobbles like it's had a hard life. But there's a door that locks, a toilet that flushes, mostly, and a flickering television that offers the comforting glow of late-night infomercials and reruns from a simpler time. It's not home, but it's horizontal, and that counts. You take off your shoes, but not your jeans. You never know who's walked these floors barefoot, or what they left behind. You stack your belongings in a neat little pile, bag, charger, half a bottle of Gatorade, 2 lighters, 1 working. This is everything you own that hasn't been pawned, lost, or stolen. You prop a chair under the doorknob, not because you're paranoid, but because you're experienced. The ice bucket is empty. You use it to hold your phone while it charges, if the outlet works. You try the TV. It blinks to life on the Weather Channel, where a smiling meteorologist tells you there's a 40% chance of rain tomorrow. You nod solemnly, like that matters to you now. The weather's more of a background character in your story. Sometimes it's cruel, sometimes it's kind, usually it's just wet. You sit on the edge of the bed and stare at the beige wallpaper. It's peeling in one corner, revealing a darker beige underneath, like a secret you didn't ask to know. You wonder how many people have sat in this exact spot, staring at the exact same crack in the ceiling, trying to remember where it all went sideways. You feel connected to them. Motel kin, wanderers, survivors, people with too much past and not enough future. For a moment you feel safe. Not safe, but safe enough. The walls are thin, but they're walls. No one's yelling. No one's knocking. No one's watching. You allow yourself to exhale. Just a little. You even lie back, hands behind your head, gazing up like you're a guest at a 3-star resort and not a refugee from your own life. The mattress groans, but it holds. A small miracle. You think about staying another night. Just one more, but you know better. The cash won't stretch. You're already past your limit. Tomorrow you'll be back on the grind, texting people you shouldn't, making deals that feel worse by the hour, dodging people who want things you can't give. Tonight is the eye of the storm. Tomorrow is more chaos. You hear a couple arguing in the room next door. Their voices rise, then fall, then rise again like waves. You can't make out the words, but the rhythm is familiar. Love, rage, resentment, rinse, repeat. A child cries briefly, then goes quiet. A toilet flushes. The refrigerator hums. You feel the weight of it all pressing in. Other lives just as messy, just as tired, just as lost. You close your eyes and pretend for a few minutes that this is a hotel and you're just passing through. That you'll check out with clean clothes, a warm breakfast, and somewhere decent to go. But your dreams betray you. They slip into memories, old homes, old fights, old hopes that faded like motel curtains in the sun. When you wake up, the light through the dusty blinds is sharp and unkind. Your body aches, your mouth is dry. You gather your things, double-check the corners, and leave without looking back. You thank the clerk out of habit. He doesn't look up. And just like that, you're back outside, squinting in the daylight, chasing signal, chasing something, chasing nothing. One night of semi-shelter behind you, another uncertain day ahead, and the lottery begins again. The red and blue lights find you sooner or later. Maybe it's a busted tail light, maybe just bad luck. Suddenly you're in the back of a cruiser, inventing stories that even you wouldn't believe. The holding cell is cold, the bench is steel, and your fellow guests are either asleep or loudly explaining how they're totally innocent. You count the hours, replay the mistakes, and wonder if you'll make it home, or if you even have one. It happens fast. It always does. 1 second you're minding your business or something close to it, and the next you're blinking in a kaleidoscope of police lights, heart pounding so hard you can't hear the officer's questions. You try to stay calm. Keep your hands where they can see them. Remember which lie you're telling today. You hope your ID isn't flagged. You hope your friend remembered to take the pipe out of the glove box. You hope this isn't the time everything finally catches up. It is. They ask you to step out of the car. Your legs don't cooperate at first. You do the math in your head, how much is on you, what they might find, what you said last time you got stopped. The officer's face is unreadable, but the air around them is thick with authority. You try to charm your way through it. You say sir or ma'am a lot. You fake confusion. You pretend you just borrowed the car. You offer half-truths with a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. It doesn't work. The cuffs are colder than you remember. The metal bites your wrists, but you don't flinch. You've done this before. You slide into the back seat of the cruiser and stare straight ahead, trying not to meet your own reflection in the divider. The ride to the station is quiet. The officer doesn't talk, and neither do you. What's left to say? The denial phase is over. You're in acceptance now. And acceptance feels like the car is shrinking around you. The booking process is humiliating but routine. Empty your pockets. Take off your belt. Remove your shoelaces like you're about to fight someone or cry yourself to sleep. You pose for the mugshot with dead eyes and flared nostrils. You don't ask how you look. You already know. They take your fingerprints, which feels ironic. You've been trying to leave no trace for years, and here they are, cataloguing your identity in black ink. The holding cell is loud in a quiet kind of way. Someone's yelling in the corner, someone else is curled up on the floor, snoring into their hoodie. The bench is steel and unforgiving. The toilet has no lid. You sit with your back against the wall, and your knees pulled up, trying to look invisible. Time doesn't move in here. There's no clock, no window, just fluorescent lights buzzing like an insect you can't swat. You go over it all in your head. What you said, what you didn't, where you should have gone instead. Every mistake glows under the spotlight of hindsight. You wonder if they'll call your emergency contact, if that number still works, if anyone will even pick up. You think about asking for a phone call but don't. What would you say? Hey, I messed up again. Can you bail me out? Can you forgive me? Eventually they call your name. Maybe someone paid your bail. Maybe they're letting you go with a warning. Maybe the paperwork was too much trouble tonight. Doesn't matter. You collect your stuff, what's left of it, and step back into the world, blinking under the streetlights like you've been reborn. You feel lighter, but not in a good way. More like something important was scraped off while you weren't looking. You walk away, shoulders tight, hands in your pockets. No one claps, no one cheers. There's just silence, and the long walk back to wherever you're staying, or crashing, or hiding. You don't look back. You've been busted. You've been booked. And now, you're just out until the next time. Emergency rooms are the great American equalizer. Nurses ask you questions you can barely answer. Needles jab, machines beep, and the linoleum glows under unforgiving lights. You promise to quit. You promise to change, at least until the painkillers wear off. Every beep is a reminder that your body's a battlefield, and you're losing ground by the minute. You arrive on a stretcher or under your own shaky power, depending on how bad it is this time. Maybe you collapsed in a parking lot. Maybe someone found you slumped over a bathroom sink. Maybe you dragged yourself in after 3 days of chest pain and paranoia, because even your delusions were getting worried. However you got here, you're here now, and the waiting room is spinning. They ask you questions, so many questions, and you answer with half-truths or shrugs. How long have you been using? When was your last dose? Any allergies? You nod or mumble or stall with a cough. You don't want to lie, but honesty feels too sharp, too real, and there's shame baked into every syllable. So you default to vague. A while, not sure. Probably. Eventually they strap a plastic bracelet to your wrist and wheel you into a room that smells like antiseptic and anxious sweat. The fluorescent lights buzz like they're judging you. Machines chirp and blink and hum as if they're busy calculating your expiration date. A nurse takes your vitals and avoids your eyes. You want to thank her. You want to apologize. But your mouth is dry and your head is full of static. They hook you up. IV drip. EKG. Oxygen monitor. You look like a science project, all wires and beeps and skin that's seen better days. A doctor walks in and speaks with brisk efficiency, like he's got 20 other people to fix before his lunch break. He uses words like dehydrated, tachycardic, infection, and possible overdose. You nod along like you're hearing a weather report. Chance of survival, unclear. The morphine hits and everything softens. For a while the pain fades. The panic retreats. Your body relaxes for the first time in days, maybe weeks. You sink into the mattress like it's a cloud instead of a vinyl-covered slab. For a few hours, you feel human, and in that haze you make promises. I'm done. This was the last time, I swear. I'm getting out. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to get clean. You believe it too for a moment. But then the drugs wear off and the ache comes back. Not just in your bones, but in your soul. Reality returns, sharper than before. The doctor tells you they'll keep you overnight for observation, maybe longer. You ask about discharge. You ask about food. You ask about whether someone can bring you your phone charger. They look at you like you've asked to borrow the moon. The night is long. Noises echo through the hall. A distant moan. A code blue. A janitor's cart squeaking across the linoleum like a broken metronome. You can't sleep. You don't want to. Dreams in here are either filled with guilt or hospital ceiling tiles rearranging themselves in judgment. You stare at the TV, muted, watching reruns of a sitcom where everyone is clean, well-dressed and always laughing. By morning, they say you're stable. Not healthy, just stable enough to go back out there. They hand you discharge papers, a list of local clinics you won't call, a prescription you won't fill. The nurse helps you sit up. She smiles, tight-lipped. She's seen this before. You thank her anyway. She says, "Take care of yourself," and you nod, knowing you probably won't. You shuffle out in borrowed scrubs and socks. Your clothes are in a bag. Your pride somewhere underneath. The sun outside is too bright, too honest. You blink, squint, and keep walking. The hospital is behind you now. The haze lingers, and the promises you made, those soft, drug-drenched declarations of change, begin to dissolve with every step away from that glowing, sterile sanctuary. Until next time. So tonight, as you settle under clean blankets in a room that's safe and warm, maybe take a moment to let gratitude soften the edges of your thoughts. Because what you've just drifted through isn't just a cautionary tale, it's a real life, lived on the hardest difficulty setting. It's exhaustion without rest, hunger without comfort, and a parade of small heartbreaks that pile up until hope itself starts to feel like a luxury. But if there's one thing that shines through the haze and the heartbreak, it's this. Even in the most fractured lives, there's a spark of stubborn humanity. Every day survived is a quiet act of rebellion against the spiral. And even on the worst nights, there's a flicker, a friend's text, a sliver of sunlight, a single memory that refuses to disappear, that says you're still here. That survival, even when it's messy and lonely and completely absurd, is something to honour. So as you breathe out the worries of your day and listen to the quiet hum of your own world, remember, Comfort isn't guaranteed, but neither is despair. People are resilient in ways you can't always see. The past doesn't define your whole story, and even rock bottom is just a place to rest before you climb up, slowly, imperfectly, but always up. Tonight, may you rest easy, thankful for second chances, soft pillows, and the kind of peace that comes with knowing tomorrow is unwritten. Sleep well and let the absurdity of it all, history, addiction, recovery, hope, carry you gently into dreams. Good night.